Over the weekend, the Taliban, the hard-right religious fundamentalist group backed by the Pakistanis, took Kabul, that is the capital of Afghanistan, ending its months-long offensive against the U.S.-backed and trained government. That government has, of course, collapsed. There's been a transfer of power now in the wake of the U.S. pullout, with the former President Ashraf Ghani actually leaving the country on Sunday and saying, "Look, I don't want to stay. All right, I got to get out of here." Hey, fair enough. Like, you got to do what you got to do, right? Now, in a statement issued by the White House on Saturday, Biden said that while he had mobilized approximately 5,000 U.S. soldiers to provide security and assist with the evacuation of Afghanistan, he was not considering changing course to maintain the occupation of the country, doing since 2001. Saying this, quote, "I was the fourth president to preside over an American troop presence in Afghanistan. 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, including Obama, Bush, Trump, of course. I would not and will not pass this war to a 5th. And I actually think that that's the right way to go. Now, look, honestly, the situation in Afghanistan isn't great, but it never really was. So at the end of the day, I agree that Biden did the right thing here in ending the 20-year occupation, because it wouldn't matter. 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, we can't stay forever. And as soon as we would leave, the exact same thing would actually happen. And it's not because, of course, Taliban good. No. Because there are no options here. There were no good options. Either you pull out and this happens, or you stay forever, which, as I said before, completely unsustainable. You can't do that. There's a reason Afghanistan is known as the graveyard of empires. Generally, and you would think that after the Soviets had failed that one, thanks partly to the United States for arming and training what would become the Taliban. Just saying. You would think we would have learned our lesson, but no, American exceptionalism and hubris, because of course, America. Look, the truth is, after 20 years, trillions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of innocent lives, troops, and of course, innocent Afghan citizens, we end up having nothing long-lasting achieved, save for, of course, profits for the military-industrial complex. We knew this was going to happen, because invading an already fractured and factionalized country, and then setting up a centralized, what ended up being a super corrupt puppet government, hey, that never works in the long run. Who knew? We've seen this movie before, and of course it all ends the same way, sadly. And it really is an absolute tragedy for the people that are living there, that are going to live under Taliban rule again, especially the women and girls, and the fundamentalism that the Taliban, of course, is going to bring. It is a terrible situation for the people stuck in the middle, and a really good reminder of why we shouldn't have been there in the first place. Because in this situation, understand, on Twitter I made a comparison here. For those, Star Trek nerds in the audience, like myself, this is the Kobayashi Maru. There is no win scenario. It's to judge, I guess, the character of the people that are taking the test. The United States took the test, and we failed absolutely, dismally. There is no winning here. There is no winning. For anyone involved, except, I guess, for the aforementioned defense contractors who did make a boatload of money. Now, Barbara Lee, let me go back to her. Barbara Lee was the lone voice in Congress that said, no, I'm not going to authorize the use of military force for Iraq and Afghanistan. She was right. Bernie Sanders, look, I like Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders got this massively wrong. Later on, of course, he admitted that and gave her massive credit by saying, quote, this was back in 2018, I believe. Well, only one person, my good friend Barbara Lee, was right on that issue. She was the only person in the House to vote against the war in Afghanistan. She was right. I was wrong. So was everybody else in the House. Now, you look on corporate media, you're not going to see like, oh, no, yeah, Barbara Lee, absolutely right. Bernie Sanders, afterwards ended up being right. The people who are anti-war, who are anti-going to Afghanistan in the first place, that they were right. No, what you're seeing is, well, we should have stayed longer. We should have never left. The pullout was a mistake. That's what you're seeing. Disaster. And of course, I'll address the reaction to this in another segment. But first, I want to go to people that are having positive things to say about this before we go to the negative. So I want to go to Stephen Miles here, the executive director of the U.S.-based group Win Without War. So here's what he said on Friday, quote, "The tragic events unfolding in Afghanistan are yet further proof of the utter failure of our country's endless wars and the mindset that enables them." That mindset, of course, being American exceptionalism and, of course, imperialism. Nearly 2 decades of military intervention and occupation did not build lasting peace. No number of bombs dropped, no length of time occupied would have. And I think that's a very important lesson to take from this entire Afghanistan, quote-unquote, experiment that I guess some people are calling it. Terrible, right? Even saying something like that, like calling it an experiment. But anyway, peace activist Medea Benjamin also added, as the blame game for the Afghan crisis heats up, I want to add all who supported this disastrous invasion from the beginning, including those who have bashed us at anti-war protests. We were right, we're wrong. We should have never invaded Afghanistan, period. Once again, I agree. Lindsay German, convener of the UK-based Stop the War Coalition, also said in a statement on Sunday, quote, "The whole war on terror has proved a terrible failure, and this should have been admitted. We should also consider how the lives of Afghanis would have been improved if only a fraction of the money committed to this war had gone into improving their lives through investment in infrastructure, housing, education, and agriculture. That was an opportunity that could have been taken, but was ignored in favor of military solutions, and those brought us to where we are today." Well, again, you're not going to see a lot of admission from the military contractors of, oh, this was a mistake, because it turns out it wasn't a mistake for them. They made out handsomely, incredibly well. And so for them, it's like, oh, yeah, no, what are you talking about? This was great. We love it. We love this endless war stuff because it's endless profit. There's more. And let me just, by the way, add that this was, and you're going to see a lot of hand-wringing, a lot of pearl clutching in corporate media today about the poor Afghanis, the Afghan citizens, the women and girls, but understand that it's not really their lives that the U.S. really actually cared about, that the government did. This is about, again, the failed war on terror that was started by Bush and continued all the way up until now. Nothing is more evident than the fact that this pullout didn't involve bringing our Afghan allies out of the country, which they could have done a couple of months in advance. We just kind of left people twisting in the wind. And that is something that you can criticize the Biden administration for. Turns out his pullout game is hella weak. We could have been flying those refugees out of the country, but we didn't, and we actually end up having some incredibly heartbreaking scenes that I'm about to show you. And of course, there are some other videos as well of people clinging to the planes as they've taken off and then have fallen off those planes. So that just shows you the level of desperation of the people who've wanted to escape Taliban rule. And so why weren't we getting these people out? I mean, obviously there seems to have been a lot of hubris involved with Biden himself going out there and saying, well, you know, we don't see them actually going in and taking Kabul. I mean, that's not feasible. No, it's gonna. I mean, it could be like 90 days, but you're fine. No, within days. And so it has gotten so bad. In fact, those same evacuation flights were actually temporarily halted as a result, of course, of so many people that have been trying to flee the country. A U.S. official had told Fox News that the runway at the Hamid Karzai International Airport was not secure as Afghan citizens breached security, as you could see. The official said that all U.S. military and charter flights had been suspended as of this afternoon. Worse, a military official actually told CBS News that earlier today that U.S. troops had also killed 2 armed Afghan citizens who breached security and had been firing shots in the air. No, it wasn't the people who breached the security that were firing in the air, by the way. That was U.S. troops that were firing in the air. They brought in Apache helicopters to try to get people off the runway so that they could take off. It's been terrible. All right. So that's the type of video that's been going around. You know, it's been spreading far and wide. And that's what people are going to remember about today, about this weekend, about the pullout from Afghanistan in general. But understand, the Taliban retaking the country was inevitable. But just because that was inevitable didn't mean that we had to have scenes like that. Again, this wasn't about the Afghan people. This was another failed attempt at imperialist nation building that never should have happened. I hope that one day the Afghan people are actually able to live in a free and open society that respects the rights of women, LGBTQ people, and other, you know, and just general human rights. The thing about that is we can't force them to do it. And that's what's important. This should be the takeaway from this entire thing. The entire last 20 years, when people sit and wonder, what did we gain? Why did we do this? What happened? What did we do for the last 20 years? Are all of our sacrifices in vain? The lesson we should be taking is we cannot force people into democracy. You can't do it. They have to do this on their own without our imperialist involvement or the involvement of any other outside power. They've got to do this on their own. And eventually, one day, I hope they will. As for refugees, we should take in every single refugee that we can from Afghanistan. Other countries have already said that we're going to take people in. We're going to get people out. We're going to send planes, and I think that's the right thing to do. I wish we would have done that sooner, but again, there's that whole hubris that happened, and so all I can say is I hope for the best for the Afghan people, that we can get as many of them out as we can. I think that they should be welcome here in the United States to get away from that oppressive rule. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.